let's talk about Jackson Arnold. I mean, it is no secret. I mean, look, even your casual college football fan probably knows who Jackson Arnold is if they watched a lick of bowl game football because one of the better bowl games included this quarterback, Jackson Arnold, out of high school, man. He was a 4 star. He was pretty average rated 4 star, right? He was highly rated, but he just skyrocketed after his Elite 11 showing out. He played at 6A, Division two in state of Texas. If you didn't know, that's the highest division that there is in Texas. He also played at Denton Guyer, which is just known for just breeding talent. And you're looking at elite production in an elite competition. And so far, I think he's done fine. And people are going to point at that Arizona game. You're going to pull up all of his interceptions that he threw in that game. Yeah, okay. He was a true freshman that was going against one, a very good defense, Johnny Nansen defense right there. And two, it was just they did not have the same roster that they had throughout the season. However, you're changing up offense coordinators this year. No more Jeff Levy. You're looking at Seth Luttrell getting an internal promotion, former head coach at North Texas. If you remember him at North Texas, though, Seth Luttrell, I thought he did fine offensively in those years. Austin Uni, um, Jeff Wilson, you're an NFL guy. Jeff Wilson was on those teams, absolutely racking up yards over there. So I believe in Jackson Arnold. I am all in on Jackson Arnold, and you could not be coming to this team at a better time. Look, let's be real. Dylan Gabriel was fine at Oklahoma, was he not?
He was great. I mean, he had almost 7,000 yards the past 2 years, 55 touchdowns. He was awesome. Really, really good player. A lot different than Jackson Arnold, though, if you ask me, in their playing styles.
Absolutely. Yeah, Oklahoma's past year was number fifth or third overall in points per game scored, third in total yards per game, fifth in the country in passing yards per game. Now, however, yeah, and yards per attempt, they were ninth in the country, top 20th in yards per completion, eighth in completion percentage. And it's not like they were throwing the ball, much more than anyone else. I mean, they 31st most pass attempts per game, but that's also because of their pace. It's their pace. They average 76 plays on offense per game. That's absurd. That is absurd pace. So a lot of that passing production did come from pace for sure. And the offense will change up a little bit. It'll change up a little bit with Seth Luttrell in there, but I I like Seth Luttrell in there. I think he'll be fine. I think Jackson Arnold's a stud. He's got the size I don't think Dylan Gabriel has. I think he's a better arm talent than Dylan Gabriel. And you know what? Is it crazy to say that he's just as athletic? Or is that a little criminal?
He's a damn good athlete. You saw him make some plays in that bowl game. And what's nice about him is he has that size, and I guess it helps you a little bit with durability and feeling like, hey, it's third and two. I can run a read option. I can get, QB sneak here and there with Jackson Arnold. Things he can do a little bit differently that Dylan Gabriel can. Not only with his arm pushing the ball down the field, which you saw in that bowl game, a beautiful strike to Brendan Thompson, down the stride, down the field versus Dylan Gabriel liking to nitpick the middle of the field, do his stuff, work surgically, which is great and obviously very impressive in its own right. But you're bringing a guy like Deion Burks, right? You have Andrew Anthony, Nick Anderson, Jaleel Farouk, obviously Brendan Thompson mentioned earlier, deep threat. Like you have guys and athletes, you want to push the ball down the field, right? And Jackson Arnold obviously is a guy you invested in high school. And it's unfortunate. Nowadays, you can't keep two elite quarterbacks for the most part. It's hard. You have to pick one if you're the Oklahoma boosters or if you're the Oklahoma staff, and you have to be like, okay, Jackson Arnold's our guy for 2 years, right? And obviously, there's going to be some growing pains this year for sure. But I mean, what's not to like? I mean, the upsize is so tantalizing. You saw his meteoric rise, like you mentioned, in high school because of his ability to push the ball down the field and make big time throws, big time plays. He was a Gatorade National Player of the Year. Yeah, he's awesome. And to be honest, if you ask me, in that star-studded 2023 class of quarterbacks, right, with Arch Manning and Dante Moore and all those guys, Nico, who's also very good, Aiden Childs as well. Jackson Arnold's the guy who I feel the best about right now after 1 year. Now you don't know; it's still early, but I don't think that's crazy to say. In a very elite class of quarterbacks, Oklahoma has their guy moving to the SEC for at least 2 more years. That cannot be understated enough.
I agree. I agree. He is a dude, man. He's a dude. And I'm trying to remember like what his recruiting looked like. Maybe you can help me out on this, but it felt like he committed kind of early, right, to Oklahoma.
Yeah, he didn't have a ton going. I mean, obviously he had stuff going on. Oklahoma was looking at him. Okay, that's a premier program. But it wasn't until the very end, those last couple updates in that cycle where he boomed up in the rankings. Right? He had offers from just about everybody else. Of course he did. But yeah, it was really Oklahoma. Alabama was in a little bit, but they also had their other quarterback. Had two guys they liked, Dylan Loner and our guy Eli Holstein. But yeah, other than that, it was kind of just Oklahoma. They got him on an early, great evaluation by them. Jeff Levy actually was the primary recruiter, and like you mentioned, yeah, he came in ready to play physically, but mentally because of that top competition he played, and obviously you saw it. It's hard. It's hard to get thrust into a bowl game because all year you were taking twos, you were taking reps with the twos, right, or even the threes when you first got there, back in the summer. So the to me, yeah, I look at the bowl game and I see a ton of promise, a ton of promise. 361 yards, two touchdowns, 11 rushes on the ground as well. I can't be more excited about Jackson Arnold and what he can do in Oklahoma. Let me ask you this. What does a breakout for Jackson Arnold mean for Oklahoma in their SEC plays and their just overall momentum going forward with Brent Venables?
It would be monumental. It would be monumental. One, you're headed into the SEC, like you already mentioned. It's not going to be an easy slate. It's not going to be an easy slate. I mean, I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Oklahoma in the last decade had to have at least won, what, six of the last eight Big 12 titles? At least.
They've been
Has to be
really
somewhere
humming.
around there. Has to be somewhere around that number. They were buzzing in that conference. It's going to be a little different. You had that blip when Lincoln Riley left, but it looks like Oklahoma's kind of turning it around right now. If Jackson Arnold pops off the way that I think he can, he will not only be really good for Oklahoma, but he will be one of the best players in the entire country if he pops off the way that people think that he can pop off. Because he's got that athleticism, that size, that arm talent now around him. Like he's got better receivers next year. Then I mean, Dylan Gabriel was throwing to Drake Stoops. No disrespect to Drake Stoops, but Deion Burks is a dude,
Yeah.
and Nick Anderson like will be healthy like for the full season, right? And you'll get to actually see him with 12 games of sample size. I I like Gavin Sawchuk going to be taking over the reins there, running back who's. I mean, they were just waiting on him, right, to take those reins. It's just been a waiting game with him. He's that talented. It's it would mean a lot. It would mean a lot, and it means that they could. I don't know that he's competing for an SEC championship this year. He could. He could. If he's that good, they could. But uh, just a trend in the right direction for Oklahoma would mean a lot, especially going into the SEC.
Well, he also gives you a chance to win every single football game you're playing him just because of how good he can play. And no matter what the talent gap is, and I trust me, I love the way Brent Venables has recruited and developed and built that roster, changed it. He had to change it completely from what Lincoln Riley left it at. First of all, Lincoln Riley kind of decimated it, not with the transfer portal, but also he had to really recruit inside out. I love what he's done so far, but there's still a year or two away from really competing with the big boys in the SEC. But you have Jackson Arnold. You have to play Tennessee. You have to play Texas, obviously, in the Cotton Bowl. You got to play Ole Miss. You got to play Missouri, Alabama, LSU, all teams with darn good quarterbacks in the SEC and defenses. And you have to, well, I guess not LSU, but you have to really, really get after them and compete and go body blow for body blow in October, November with these really good teams. Yeah, Jackson Arnold's the guy, and I know it's tough to see Dylan Gabriel walk out the door, and I'm sure he's going to do great things for Oregon. He fits that system super super well. I love, getting rid of Bo Nix after the NFL draft, and obviously inserting in Dylan Gabriel now, and then the long term Dante Moore. Awesome for Oregon, but listen, Oklahoma's in a great spot too.